fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. When I was a kid, my mom used to make this special meal for us. My brother and I would get so excited when we heard that we were going to have Twilight Chowder. That's what my mom called it. When she bought it at the store, it was called Campbell's Chicken and Stars. But when she poured it into that old wobbly bottomed pot and stirred it with her trusty wooden spoon and then served it in our fanciest bowls, it became Twilight Chowder. We thought it was so magical. I even remember one time we were sitting around the table and my brother made me laugh and one of the stars went flying out of my mouth. My mother says, "Oh look, a shooting star." I remember that to this day. It just seemed so special. My mother really had a knack for making the mundane seem extraordinary. She had to. She couldn't afford the extraordinary. As a single mother, she worked so hard. She would stay up late nights when my brother and I went to bed, and she would make things that she could sell at the market. She hardly ever bought anything new. And life was hard. She relied on food stamps and free health care to take care of us. The thing was, I never felt like we were poor. I felt like we were pretty lucky to have what we had. My mother instilled in me that it's easy to find the extraordinary in the mundane. She also taught me about respect and dedication and honesty. No matter what life threw at her, she exemplified those values every single day. I'd be willing to bet that a lot of you had someone in your life like that. Someone who made the simple things seem so special. Someone who had that magic ingredient that could turn canned soup into Twilight Chowder. But I'm worried that the youth of today are missing that magic ingredient. In the age of the internet, there's too much distraction and there's too much pressure to just do things perfectly. The ideal mother is raising kids who are healthy and smart and adorable and happy. As a mother in the modern world, I know how easy it is to be overwhelmed by trying to achieve that unrealistic ideal. Of course I want my kids to be healthy and smart and adorable and happy, but a lot of those things are out of my control. I can read thousands of parenting blogs, but the sad fact that I will never be able to accomplish all of that is crushing. Unlike in generations past, when mothers mostly relied on common sense to raise their children, today's mothers scour the internet for the answers to everything. We're just trying to do what's best for our kids, but the endless resources at our fingertips, they make that search for what's best into a full-time job. The more time we spend wading through conflicting information, the less time we have for that magic ingredient. Mothers are more anxious now than ever before. That constant pressure to do it all has us stretched too thin. So instead of sowing the seeds for strong leadership, we're sowing the seeds for anxiety. In studies, they found that young children today aren't worried about how many presents they're going to get at Christmas or how much attention they have. Most of them are worried about their parents' stress levels. And studies show that older kids are stressed too. Right now in this country, 1 in 4 American teens is afflicted by anxiety disorder. 1 in 4. These young adults are comparing their successes to others. They're measuring their worth by how many likes they have on Instagram or how many followers they have on Twitter. So with an anxiety at an all-time high for mothers and for children, the future of our country is unstable. Mothers are so focused on doing things that look good that they're forgetting to do things that feel good. And the youth of today are so focused on impressing others that they're not thinking about what really matters. If mothers don't take the time to focus on what matters most, if they don't exemplify those values that they want to instill in their children, then who will? Well, I think the answer lies in this room. As Toastmasters, we know that leaders are made. We know that leadership means standing up and rising to the challenge. This is our chance to make a difference. As Franklin Roosevelt once said, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. Next time you feel powerless to influence today's leaders, remember that tomorrow's leaders are walking or crawling among us right now. A future president might be the kid stocking shelves at the grocery store, just like Bill Clinton was 60 years ago. Or the next mega entrepreneur might be the pregnant 14-year-old riding the bus to school, just like Oprah was 50 years ago. Or maybe a future Nobel Peace Prize winner is the kid who stole all your Halloween candy last Tuesday. The youth of today will be running this country next. If we want them to do it with respect, compassion, and integrity, then we can't turn our heads. We must show them what it looks like to live these values. To those of you who don't currently have young children in your lives, find a way to reach out. Make opportunities. If you volunteer to coach the basketball team, you might be influencing the next Barack Obama. If you help out at the library after school, you might inspire the next Ruth Bader Ginsburg. These leaders are just waiting in the wings. They need you to help give them flight. And to my fellow moms who are raising kids today, know that your children are affected much more by your everyday actions than by your accomplishments. Just let go of those impossible ideals and focus on the simple things. Whenever I get overwhelmed by the pressure to make my kids healthy and smart and adorable and happy, I think about my mother. I think about her living her values every day. And I remind myself that making Twilight chowder isn't about researching the healthiest ingredients, driving all over town to buy them fresh, and then spending hours cooking. It's about dancing in the kitchen while you're waiting for the soup to heat up, and sitting all together at the table talking about the things that matter most to you. With a little bit of that magic ingredient, the kids of today can be truly great leaders of tomorrow. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, particularly Caitlin. Wow, what a speech. Today we're going to commemorate her number 10, that we already have. This was one of the best number 10 speeches I've heard in this club, or the other club for that matter. It just was really well put together. There were stories, told a story, made a point, it inspired us. You brought us from the beginning on through to the point you were trying to make, and left us inspired to follow through on those points, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic. You approached the lectern with a smile on your face and a story. And so immediately we related to you, and we all can imagine our own parents at some point in our childhood, as you talked about your mother, and I thought that was a very effective way to start the speech, because the rest of the time we were going to be listening and say, okay, what else is she going to tell us? And you did tell us a lot of things. You even got some early humor in there with the chicken and stars soup, and that was very clever. We all laughed and further brought us into what you were trying to say. So that is a message that I bring to all of you. These are techniques that Caitlin used today that we all can learn from how to bring the audience into your speech. Just those two things by themselves at the beginning did so. And remember again, she started off with a smile. She wasn't sweating the load, as we say in the Navy. But she was right up there and ready to go, appearing totally relaxed. She was, maybe she wasn't, but she appeared that way. She then continued with a story about her mother, and it got a little more serious for a while, about how her mother did not have much in the way of resources, but she never felt poor, and Caitlin never felt poor. And I like the phrase she used about her mom, extraordinary in the mundane. That's a phrase that I will remember. At that point, she paused and changed the direction that she was going to go, which is what you do when you're going to change to the next part of your speech. You stop, take a deep breath, pause, let people realize that, okay, she's moving on to something else. And Caitlin did that very effectively, and at that point started talking about, okay, she brought her title in at that point about the magic ingredients and making a point about what's going to happen to today's kids and the situation they face, unlike what my mother faced and I faced when I was a kid. And a very effective way to do that. Again, she paused at that point and moved us from one side of the speech to the next. So very well done there. Talked about the internet, anxiety and stress and the impact on kids. And then said, the future of the country is unstable. That kind of got my attention. So, okay, what are we going to do about it? By golly, she had some suggestions about what to do about it, starting with joining Toastmasters, which is very effective. Always get your points in the speech contest. And then you appeal to live the values that we learned as a kid, the positive values for our kids' sake, and if we didn't have kids, and for other kids' sake. Very well handled there. And she had a quote, something to the effect, we can build our tomorrow for our youth or build our youth for tomorrow, and then she went in and explained that and how that should happen. The only suggestion that I would have is we did come up here with a page full of notes. And at times you were down looking to see where you were and reading off, and while it was important to you to get the right words out, it was distracting a little bit. It was clear you had notes. At the number 10 speech level, it's better if you're beyond the note stage, but that's a very minor thing because this is one of the best number 10 speeches that I've heard. What I would suggest is, at this point, I know you're moving, but in South Carolina, there are Toastmasters clubs there too. I would suggest you get started on an advanced manual or get into the Pathways program that Jack has talked about that we're already doing here in this district. Mr. Postmaster.